So today's subject is for those who have been chanting as instructed in these sessions. Time comes when, for many people, chanting stops becoming as effective as it used to be earlier. Now, of course, the point is, are we chanting for effectiveness or are we chanting as a sacrifice? And the answer is, of course, we're chanting as a sacrifice. But that sacrifice also needs to be properly done. And the performance of that sacrifice must be done in a manner that. And when Krishna is pleased by your chanting, spontaneously, automatically, effortlessly, you will find that you will get the prasad. And that prasad will be silence. But what happens frequently to people is that chanting becomes mechanical, chanting becomes a ritual, chanting becomes a chore which you want to finish off as soon as possible, so that ultimately chanting is mixed up with other activities. Chanting is mixed up with your walking. You go for a morning walk and say, "Chalo, chanting bhi kar le." You think that you will do something else and you chanting. I'll drive and I'll chant while driving. And all of these are actually offenses against chanting of the holy name. And they are offenses against chanting of the holy name because they are really about chanting without mindfulness. So it's important for us to understand, first of all, the importance of chanting. The Bhagavad-Geeta clearly points out from the beginning to the end that we must perform our duties in a spirit of sacrifice and devotion to please God. Yata pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana vyarchaya siddhim vindati manava. That each person, by the performance of his God-given duties, in the spirit of sacrifice to the all-pervading Lord, attains perfection. And that is the primary method or the primary yajna that one performs. He also points out in the 6th chapter, Anashritaha karma phalam karya karma karotiya sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragni bachakriya. One who performs his God-given duties in a spirit of sacrifice to this all-pervading Lord, he is the true sannyasi, he is the true yogi, not one who lights no fire and does no work. So it's very important that we must work. Do not substitute your work for chanting. Your work is your primary means to salvation. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthayopakalpate narthasya dharmaikantasya kamolabhaye hismita. The Bhagavad declares that your work is the means to your salvation. Do not let the acquisition of wealth or prosperity or fortune obtained incidentally through your work lead to your degradation. So work is most important. Work as a sacrifice. But there are intervals between working. there are intervals between working. And these intervals between working should be filled with a yajna, which indeed brings about a training of your mind. In chapter 10 of the Bhagavad-Gita, verse 25, Krishna says, Maharishinam Bhrigur Aham Giram Asmikyam Aksharam Yagna Nam Japo Yagnosmi Stavaranam Himalaya. Among the sages I am Bhrigu. Among the sounds I am the sound of Om. Amongst all sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy name. Among immovable things, I am the Himalayas. So what Bhagavad Gita says is that when you are not working, you must discipline and train your mind to remember God and forget self. And you remember God and forget self by performing that yajna, which is chanting of God's holy name. So how do you chant? When do you chant? Where should you chant? First of all, your chanting should not be mixed up with any other activity. I have over the years seen people chanting and walking up and down, going for a walk in the garden, walking around in the temple, and doing multifarious activities. Some people start chanting while driving. In all ways, they engage in chanting, plus they are committing an offense against the holy name. And it's considered an offense against the holy name simply because the chanting of God's names must be performed reverentially, mindfully, lovingly, with full attention. When you chant, there are many ways to chant. And these ways to chant are described in various scriptures. And in various scriptures, you will find different methods of chanting. One form of chanting is called Vachaka Japa. It is the loud japa or the loud chanting you can hear, and others around you can also hear. Upanshu Japa. In Upanshu Japa, the japa is only with slight movements of the tongue and lips. This japa is heard only by one who is chanting and not by the others. Manasik Japa. Repetition of the mantra completely in the mind, often coordinated with the breath. Even the lips and tongue do not move. And sound is completely absent. Among these three, Manasik japa is considered to be the best, followed by Upanshu japa, followed by Vachaka japa. So loud japa or loud chanting is the least effective. In fact, various scriptures have mentioned this. In the Manusmriti also, in 2.85, it is mentioned that an offering consisting of muttered prayers is 10 times more efficacious than sacrifice performed according to the rules of the Vedas. A prayer which is inaudible to others surpasses it 100 times, and the mental recitation surpasses it 1000 times. So when you can chant silently, your chanting is the most effective. But that is the most difficult form of chanting, and it is not recommended in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, Upanshu chanting should be done. And in doing Upanshu chanting, some amount of Vachak or some amount of silent Manasik japa can also be done along. So I don't say that you should not chant while walking or you should not chant while driving, but your sadhana, your spiritual practice, your spiritual training should be completely dedicated to chanting alone. What is the best time to chant? I always recommend that you chant in the morning, soon after getting up. And also, if you can chant before you go to bed. So if you can do this chanting twice a day, chanting will fill your day and it will fill your night and your dreams. But how does one chant? First of all, one chants in a sitting posture. Sukhasana is a wonderful way to chant. But if you want to sit in a chair, that's fine. Whatever is comfortable for you. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Patanjali points out, Sukham Stairyam Asanam. The asana that you take should be comfortable and you should be steady in that asana, not moving. And when you are seated, if it is cold weather, you are in winter, or you are in a place where the weather is cold, you should cover yourself with a shawl or a blanket. Why do I say that? Because when you enter into a meditative state, your basic metabolic rate goes down by as much as 12%. Whereas when you are sleeping, your basic metabolic rate goes down by 8%. So your body temperature will drop and you need to be warm, otherwise your chanting will be disturbed. So you can sit still, comfortably. Wrap yourself in a shawl if the weather is cold. And you must have the beads in your hand. And when you have the beads in your hand, which gives you the tactile sensation of the bead and gives you an indication of how much you have chanted, you may begin to chant. And when you chant, you should chant just loud enough for yourself to hear. So there are a few phases of chanting. The first phase is awareness. Awareness means you become aware of the chanting that you're doing. The second is it should be attentive or focused. Now, not only are you aware of the chanting, but now you become unaware of other sounds. Ideally speaking, you can use even something, you can chant in a room which is completely free from sound, frees you from the sound outside, and the room is completely silent, that is best. But I have known people who use earplugs. I have known people who use sound headphones to prevent sound from coming. But essentially, you should try to now, having become aware of the sound of the name that you're chanting, you should also now begin to actually shut out all other external sounds, which means no young children in the room, nobody to disturb you, no phone which will ring all of a sudden. All of these must be excluded from area of meditation. And then you begin to chant with full attention. So first awareness, then with full attention. And once you are listening to your sound coming from your own lips with full attention, you have to completely and absolutely remind yourself that you are chanting when your mind wanders. This is called remembrance. What happens is we chant, and while we are chanting, our mind is, oh, this is happening, oh, that is happening. You're chanting mechanically. So from time to time, you must remind yourself that this chanting going on, and you must bring your mind back from its wanderings, back to chanting the sound of it. So first awareness, second full attention or focus, and third, you must be able to listen to the sound of God's name and bring your attention back to the sound of God's name by reminding yourself that you're sitting for chant. Should you close your eyes? I strongly suggest that you close your eyes. You can't do that, wear an eye mask. If eye mask is not handy, then you can use a scarf which you can tie around your eyes. And become aware, become focused, and then bring your mind back. Don't kick yourself. Don't say what a fool I am because my mind is wandering. No. Just gently bring your mind back to the sound of God's name. Just bring your mind back gently to the sound of God's name. From a neuroscientific perspective, your brain will try to kick in with the default circuit, which goes to your ego and your social cognition network. But when you bring it back to the sound of the name, that becomes a task positive network again, and then your mind becomes arrested. There are many, many, many benefits of chanting. And while I would say that remembering God and forgetting yourself are the primary means, primary benefits, and attaining bhakti of God is the most beneficial to any human being. In fact, chanting also has many material benefits. It's instantly dispels stress and depression. works very well for stress and depression. It also improves cognitive skills. And because you are being trained to move into a task positive network, it improves your focus and concentration on every task that you take up in your life, including your work, which causes you, of course, to excel in your work. A lot of the illnesses that we have in our body is because of overthinking. When blood is pumped into the brain, the more you move into the default network and the more your mind races in the default network, the more blood rushes to your brain and more of it rushes away from your spinal column and it rushes away from other areas of your body. So low backache, neck pain, all these things occur as a result of diversion of blood to the brain because of excessive blood flow, which comes from the default network overuse. But when you are chanting, everything normalizes. In fact, there is synchronization of your left lobe and your right lobe. And as all these changes occur, many other benefits are seen in the long run. Radio imaging has shown that the result of chanting also increases the gray matter in the prefrontal lobes of your brain, which improves your concentration, which improves your focus, your thinking ability, and your self-control. So when you chant mindfully and don't react to your mind wanderings. You accept that your mind has wandered and gently bring it back into focus on the sound of the name. Sometimes you might find it useful to move from Upanshu Japa to Vachaka Japa. Because when the mind wanders, a little bit of sound and vibration will shake you up and cause your attention to come back to the holy name. Sometimes when you're very disturbed, it might be beneficial to do some kirtan before you sit down to do japa, because that kirtan itself will pacify your mind. In many of the meditational retreats I have conducted, I find that people who listen to kirtan and they participate in the bhajan kirtan and then enter into japa, they are even able to go directly into manasik japa or silent meditation on the holy name. It's very, very, very beneficial. So if the mind wanders, do Vachaka Japa. If you need, mind is very disturbed from the beginning, you might want to do bhajan and kirtan before you sit down for your japa. And all these will be of tremendous benefit to silencing your mind. Enter into the process of doing japa with a prayer to Bhagavan, a heartfelt prayer to Bhagavan. To help you remember him and forget yourself. And if you are chanting lovingly, if you are chanting non-judgmentally of yourself, because your mind will wander and you will have to bring it back. But you must do this, moving your mind back non-judgmentally. And if you do this sincerely, you will find tremendous effectiveness of this step. The more you take it as a ritual, the more you take it as a task to be completed, the more you combine it, multitasking with other activities, the less the sadhana will help. Of course, you can chant all the time. After all, the injunction is Kirtaniya Sada Hari. Always chant God's name. But your sadhana must be perfect. Because if you do your sadhana, which is the chanting of God's name sincerely, mindfully, with full attention, with full focus, with full remembrance, bringing your mind back again and again to the sound of the holy name, you will find that you will get great benefit. For those who are chanting Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Then, if you are chanting 108 times, you must see that you are not chanting too fast and not chanting too slow. Chanting too fast means you're doing it very mechanically. And chanting too slow means your mind is wandering from it. So it's between 5 and 8 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, 5 and 7.5 minutes for you to finish one mala. And thus, if you are able to chant in that limited period of time, you will find that your chanting will become more and more effective. Sometimes, even while you do japa, you might want to do a tuneful japa. Tuneful japa means that you add a tune to the japa. This, of course, involves another part of your brain, and therefore it helps you even more. So these are the various methods that one adopts, and one has to be very, very strict in the timings that one keeps. And I know life is busy, and I know there are many, many distractions, but performance of your duties in a spirit of sacrifice to please God, that is paramount. In the time you have before and after, you must spend time chanting God's name so that you can remember Him. So I'll pause here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask now. No questions? All right. Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Om.